Hey everyone, we're going to get to the demo of Abandoned in just 1 second, but I just wanted to make a quick note that this video has 3 sections to it. So I'm going to just show you both guitars together, both lead and rhythm guitars stacked on top of each other so you can see both parts being played simultaneously. Then I have a section where it's just a devotional thought about this song. Love for you to listen to that when it's convenient for you. And then after that, I have kind of a rundown of all the tones that were for each guitar. So this tutorial is using my all-in-one Quad Cortex preset. And so if you have that preset, or if you have a Quad Cortex and you're interested in how I got these tones, then that's section 3 of this video. And to snag the all-in-one preset that this song-specific preset was made from, you can go to thetoneshepard.com to snag that. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. I sincerely hope that was a helpful resource for you to equip you to play this song at your church. But before you go, hold on for a second. If I might just have a minute of your time to encourage you with the meaning behind the lyrics and the heart of this song. This song perfectly captures the true biblical idea of worship. Biblical worship is not just a song. Worship is not just a service. Worship is not just a ritual or a set of practices. Worship is my whole life lived out in response to the goodness and grace of God, my whole life. In my top favorite scriptures in the Bible is Romans 12, 1-2. A lot of you probably know that, but it says, "Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." Another version of this passage I memorized when I was younger says, "Present your bodies as a living sacrifice, which is your reasonable service." And I've always been fascinated by that word. The word reasonable is the Greek word logikos, and it can mean a few different things. First, it can mean rational, which would imply that in light of all we know God did for us on the cross, in light of the good news of God, that Jesus Christ literally took our place on the cross and raised from the dead, how could we not offer our lives in return? It's a rational exchange. His actual sacrifice for our living sacrifice. It's reasonable. The word logikos can also mean spiritual, which could also make sense in this passage since Paul has just argued that Jesus has done away with the sacrificial system once and for all, and now you and I have direct access to God in a spiritual way, with our hearts and through our minds. The writer of Hebrews also echoes this idea when we're encouraged to draw near to God with a sincere heart, right? We don't need a special time or place or person to mediate. We can come to him anytime, anywhere with our hearts. We can come to him with our spirits. And logikos can also mean true, which would also make sense in light of the fact that we're not to follow, as he says, the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of our minds. So receiving and believing and acting on what is true and right and actually good according to the kingdom over and above the false narratives the world offers, that's worship as well. Or maybe Paul has all three of these meanings in his mind. If we gave our worst and Jesus gave his blood, what other response is there but to surrender our lives as a living sacrifice? If Jesus made a way for us to connect with and draw near to God without the need to bring him anything physical, he's not asking us to repay his love. He's simply asking we draw near with a sincere heart. And if the truth of the gospel means that Jesus surrendered his will to the Father, what other option do we have but to lay down our version of the truth and lay down our lives and make it our new life endeavor to match our will to his? This is worship. And this is exactly what the song is all about. We need more songs like this on our lips, songs that will form our hearts and our minds toward biblical worship. So if you haven't heard or played this song yet, I can't recommend it enough. So right now, I just want to break down the tones for you in this song, specifically revolving around my Quad Cortex preset. So if you have purchased my Quad Cortex kind of standalone, all-in-one template preset, this will look familiar to you. And this one I tweaked substantially to accommodate my Strat and my Warhawk. My Strat, obviously single coil and brighter. My Warhawk is actually very warm. The pickups are much warmer than my Duesenberg, which is already, in my opinion, a little bit warm of a guitar. So there are pretty drastic changes in this preset, and I just want to walk you through the tones, each section for each guitar to help you get your head around what I did and what you can do to tweak things for your guitars as well. But if you have this preset, the great thing you can do is as I'm talking through the tones, you can screenshot all these different things and modify them to your liking as well. So just some information on this guitar. This is a made in Mexico Strat, but most importantly, the pickups. They're DiMarzio area pickups. So I believe it's the 61, 67, and something like that. They're basically like the Lincoln Brewster pickups, if you will. So they're noiseless, but they have this classic single coil sound to them. That's what I'm using. So if you have something close to that, you'll get something close to my tones that I'm dialing in. So let's start looking at the sections from the first. So it starts just like this. So neck pickup, that classic Strat sound, but there's a lot of fun stuff going on. A lot, actually. Let's just start at the beginning. So the Joule compressor is the compressor that I use on my template. I don't believe I changed any of these settings. These are stock to the template. This first EQ block, I didn't change anything either. So I left that the same. Sometimes I'll use that EQ block if I want to do something dramatic with a tone or if I'm changing guitars. But in this case, I actually changed the EQ of the amp blocks to match this guitar. And then, so basically the whole bottom row here is my Strat sounds, and then the top row is my Warhawk sounds. Anyway, we'll get to that, the amp blocks in a second. So for this particular part, I probably won't come back to either of these two blocks because they'll be the same throughout all these parts. So let's look at the overdrive. I'm using a Benson preamp on this one. Again, for the Strat, normally my Benson preamp is like my second stage drive. But for the single coils, this felt like a light overdrive to me. So, I mean, just for example, without this overdrive on, it sounds like this. So it's super, super clean. Normally, maybe I would pick even like different amp captures if I was playing a Strat. The problem with that is, especially because I have one preset for both the Warhawk guitar and the Strat guitar, I just wanted, you know, these particular amps to work with both. And I achieved that, in my opinion, through just increasing the gain stages as I went along and adjusting some of the parameters. So long story short, this is my overdrive. I'm using the Benson preamp with these settings. Screen grab it, copy it. Then I'm using 3 different modulations. So check this out for this part. I'm using basically a Boss Dimension Wazacraft Chorus block, and mix 100% mode 3+4. So it's a really strong chorus effect with these settings. Then I'm using a vibrato as well, but a very shallow vibrato. So very low depth, 16th note subdivision. And then I'm doing a tremolo as well. So a lot going on. 8th note tremolo, moderate depth, sine wave, all that stuff. So nothing to talk about there. Everything else should be stock, I believe, with the 0, so I don't have it panned at all. Although that is fun to play with. Then I have 2 different delays on. The first is a digital delay, 16th note, no ping pong. I hardly ever use page 2, so all these things kind of stay here for the digital delay. And then I'm running into a tape delay with these settings. Just note the high and low pass filter. I use a lot of, you know, I tweak this a lot to get the tone that I want out of the delay. But that's an 8th note delay, so 16th into an 8th. I don't believe this has, this does have ping pong on, so to widen that effect a little bit, so note that. So this one does. Then I'm using a reverb block before the amps and a reverb block after the amps. Both are the modulated type. These are my settings for that. Again, screen grab it, and these are my settings for that one. Let's talk about the amps first. So these do have tweaked settings. You can see that these settings on the AC30 are different than the top row. This would be for the Warhawk, and this would be for the Strat. So bit different settings. The gain is increased for the Strat. The treble is decreased. Bass and middle are still at noon. And then the ProSonic looks like this. So gain is increased. And it's still very clean, as I showed you without the overdrive blocks on. It's still very, very clean, even with the the gain blocks up. So one note though that I should say is that these are actually using slightly different amp captures than my stock template. So that is something to note. So if you buy my full AC30 pack, you'll get the full range of AC30 captures, but my stock preset template will come with AC30 V2-4 and the ProSonic will be -3. So actually I lowered the gain stage for whatever reason for this capture. So if you own my ProSonic amp pack and my AC30 amp pack, you can snag those two. If you don't, I think it's perfectly fine. You can just take the gain on each of those and turn it down basically, because these are lower gain stages than what comes stock. So you can just turn the gain down. But as you can tell, I turned the gain up on these, so you get it. So maybe at noon with the higher gain stages, it'll be fine. So just play with it to taste. So again, I think I showed you that already. The final EQ block, I don't always do a whole lot with this, but sometimes I'll use the output level to boost a particular scene if I feel like I need it. So that's there and can be handy. All right, so that's that part. Again, yeah, I played you through that a little bit. Let's move on to the next part. So this is chorus 2. So very much the same thing, just a little bit more aggressive, and now I'm using my bridge pickup. So again, Jewel and EQ, nothing notable there. Still using the Benson preamp. The settings did change, and so just a note that instead of reaching for another overdrive, sometimes I'll just use the same overdrive with different settings. So if you see this little icon, if you're not super familiar with Quad Cortex, if you see this little icon, it means that these settings can be changed per scene. So on scene E, I have the gain at 1.5, and on scene F, I have the gain at 4. So again, I could have just gone to a higher gain stage, but I like the sound of the Benson preamp. I just wanted it a little dirtier. And then I changed the EQ because when I'm going to my bridge Strat pickup, I wanted it, you know, just a little bit sounding different. So in this case, I wanted to take the bass down, but I also wanted to take the treble down. So, and the mid's up. So I wanted that mid-focused sound on this particular part with the bridge pickup, and I think it worked good. All these effects are largely the same, but the mix is a little bit lower on the chorus block. And then you can just see these settings here to see if they've changed. Again, screen grab it and screen grab it, or just pause and copy it. You know what to do. You're smart. Okay, let's see. First delay block, ping pong is off. Second delay block, ping pong is still on. Okay, and then this is the reverb before the amps. This is the reverb after the amps. Okay, let's go to bridge 1 through 2. So this is the ambient part, and I start out kind of like this. And then it kicks it up into high gear. And I'll show you that in a minute. But for this part, so I believe an octave is on. Yep, octave is on. So I have a lower octave and a higher octave at these settings. Again, this EQ block didn't change. This compressor didn't change. Certainly the Benson preamp settings changed, more bass and volume and gain differences. So I really enjoy this Benson preamp capture. I use it a lot. Just with tweaking settings. And then I've got the chorus on again at these settings. The vibrato is still on at these settings. And The tremolo is on these settings. And the digital delay is like this. Again, note things like low pass and high pass. Yep, and then tape delay like this. Again, ping pong is still on. So that's what that sounds like. Dotted eighth into an eighth. Sometimes I'll reverse that eighth into a dotted eighth, but this is just what I was feeling. Then these are the reverb settings for that block before the amps, and these are the reverb settings after. Again, nothing changed with that. All right, so that's that part. Then the last big part through the end of the song is like this. Bridge pickup. And then it finishes out the song, Forgive the Mistakes. Again, here's the octave settings. Here's the Benson preamp settings. The Dimension chorus. The vibrato. The tremolo. Delay 1. Tape delay 2, still ping-ponging. Modulated reverb before the amps. Modulated reverb after the amps. So that covers the Strat for this song. Now let's look at the Warhawk. Okay, so here's the Warhawk settings. Before we get too far, I just want to show you how the amps changed. So the AC30 has this setting, and you can screen grab that. The ProSonic has this setting. So this is consistent through all the parts for this guitar, you know, in my case for this top row of presets, all designed around the Warhawk. So again, ProSonic and AC30, those are those settings. Like always, the Jewel compressor is the same. There's nothing going on with that EQ block. For this first part, no octave. And I'm using my daily driver capture at these settings, along with the prickly pear boost at these settings. I think for this particular patch at the time, I was experimenting with a cleaner amp sound, and that's why I felt the need to boost it. So you could substitute 4 here and 3 here, probably get good results. But you'd have to adjust different things as well. If you want to just copy my settings, great. But basically, you always have to start kind of from the amp up. And in my case, since my amps were cleaner, I had to boost everything a little bit more. Anyway, daily driver there, and prickly pear boost there. That's what I felt like it needed. No modulations on, only one delay on, the tape delay at these settings. No ping pong. And then modulated reverb before. Looks like that. Look at that low pass all the way up, so bright. I wanted it, for some reason, I just wanted it bright right there. And same with this one, wanted it super bright. At these settings, much longer decay. I typically do that. The reverb that's after the amps has a longer decay, maybe a lower mix. And then nothing to note about the EQ. Really. Again, I did most of my EQ work on the amps for this guitar. And that part just sounds like, you know, it's very simple stuff. It's that opening lead line. Neck pickup there. And does very simple things like this. Yeah, noodles around, and then this comes back to the lead line. And then on the chorus, you know, it has that part. Or for verse 2 or whatnot. And then comes that chorus part. Go to the bridge pickup at that point, and I'll show you that part in just a second, but let me talk about the effects. So just so you're aware, now we're talking about the part for you know, chorus 2 and 3. This is a bigger part. And we've got, again, nothing going on there. Now we've got the Benson preamp at these settings with the Benson Germanium boost. So this has been a bit of a change as well in my updated template. Perhaps I designed this preset with my previous template, but if you have my Benson Germanium boost, you know, you can add that in here. You could easily, if you don't have the Germanium boost, you can easily use the prickly pear boost, and I'm sure it would be fine. Just find an EQ, like put it on and find a EQ and level setting that works for you. But straight up, on my Germanium boost by nature is warmer than the prickly pear. So if you were to use a different boost, I might reduce the treble a little bit, and that would probably get you there. No modulation, but I do have dual delays going on. 8th note, digital, no ping pong, into a dotted 8th note tape, no ping pong. So kind of gallopy, but not a wide gallopy feel. Then this is the first modulated reverb, and there's no reverb after the amps. And again, nothing happened with that. And so this is that part. So yeah, that's there. And so that goes for, what did I say here? Yeah, chorus 2 and the refrains. And so I think there's a, you know, there's a time when it goes like this. So that same patch is used there. And then when it goes back to the bridge 1, when it's just kind of, you know, doing the swell stuff. It goes back to that for that first set of bridges. And then I think that's where it goes. And then it gets a little crazier, and then it goes to this bridge 2 part. And that looks like this. So bridge 2 has Benson preamp at those settings, Germanium boost at those settings, delays like this, 8th into dotted 8th, still has no ping pong. This is the reverb setting. Then when it goes to bridge 2, gets a little more aggressive, adds the octave, which adds a high and a low octave. And then that's the Benson preamp settings. And Germanium boost is on again. No modulation. Here's the stereo delay, digital delay, although it is stereo. And there's the tape delay. No ping pong. And then that's the modulated before the amps and modulated after the amps. And then for that final chorus and refrain, you go back to this patch and play that again. That whole thing. So again, hope this was helpful for you in learning just how to tweak that Quad Cortex preset. Obviously, this is all to taste. Dial it in with your guitars and your pickups and what sounds best to you, but this is what I did for this particular song, and again, hopefully that's just helpful in guiding you along in your tone dialing in journey. My hope for all of this has always been and always will be to make this easier for you to dial in tones so that you can walk in on a Sunday morning, plug in, have confidence in your sound so that your mind and heart can focus on the places where it really needs to focus. The Lord, the people, your community, your team, all that. So again, hope this was a blessing to you. You can snag this Quad Cortex preset, not this particular song preset, but the general template, and then use that. Anyway, grab it at thetoneshepard.com. I've also got lots of other things too, TONEX stuff and Fractal coming soon, and anyway, STRYMON and all that. So would love to chat with you on Instagram as well. But anyway, have a great one. Be blessed, and until I see you in the next video. Again. Be blessed. See ya.